Hi, I'm Auntie Sharon, host of Mary's Eclectic Interests. And today I'm going to introduce you to the CEO and founder of G&B, Robert Hayk. Hi, Robert. How
Hi,
are
Sharon.
you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. Robert, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I was born in the country that doesn't exist any longer, Soviet Union. I was born in Armenia. My parents eventually moved to Moscow, so I grew up in between those two spots.
I'd like to know just a little bit about what is G&B.
G&B stands for grapes and barley. Actually, the name, my very good friend Paul Tsiadis came up with this name a long time ago when we were considering to do something with wine. So that was, of course, barley was intended to be association with beer, but we never got to beer, and we are not planning to do that. But name stuck, I loved it, and we kind of kept it. So, but we go by G&B Importers.
Oh, well, how did you get involved with G&B?
Work done in the finance industry. I worked for the World Bank, and then later joined Legg Mason and kind of worked through the entire Wall Street system of Smith Barney, Citigroup, then eventually ended up at Merrill Lynch. But I grew tired and unhappy of doing something I no longer believed in. And when I was considering starting my own business, I thought about enterprise that dealt with food or beverages, something that was, as Warren Buffett used to call it, forever businesses. You know, we still continue to eat, and we're probably going to continue to eat and drink.
Right.
So that's how the idea was sort of kind of conceived.
Well, can you tell me why you went into the wine and the imports business? And where at?
I spent a fair amount of time in Bulgaria right after the Soviet Union collapsed and the Warsaw Pact was dismantled. I used to work there for the U.S. Embassy in the beginning of 1990s, from 1993 to 1996. And I came to love the country, and I really fell in love with the people and their hospitality, their food, their laid-back attitude, very cosmopolitan and tolerant society, which is kind of a rarity when we talk about Eastern Europe.
Sure.
And when I was considering starting my own business, that was a no-brainer. I thought I should do something, especially agriculture, since Bulgaria is largely an agricultural country. I thought we should do that. Plus, I speak the language, and I understand the culture. I understand the Balkan sort of mentality, which is not easy. So that's how I ended up going to Bulgaria, and then talking to a lot of people, my friends who I knew from the heydays of 1990s. And of course, wine is an important agricultural product for Bulgaria. And that was a sort of a interesting time when they were starting to lose their traditional markets, like Russia and Ukraine, because of the sanctions, because of the war in Ukraine and Russia. So there was a lot of developments that taking place after Bulgaria joined the EU and NATO. And I thought, you know, on one hand, I really would like to help the wine industry of Bulgaria. On the other hand, it would be a unique and interesting concept to bring Bulgarian wine to introduce to American consumers, because when we started, there were 70,000 or so bottles of Bulgarian wine sold in the United States, which is literally a statistical zero.
Oh, really?
So I thought, why not? And that's how we started.
Well, do you have any experience at that time with wine?
No. We had a good team, and people in Bulgaria who eventually became part of our enterprise obviously had tremendous amount of experience. And I thought, I will bring the finance, and I will bring the sort of the business side of the organization, and I will surround myself with people who know infinitely more about wine, about how to make it, and how to market it. I mean, I have intuitive sense on what to do and how to do, and I'm ambitious and I'm driven. But I thought it was definitely important to surround myself with people whose expertise will help us to propel to accomplish our goal.
Did you have contacts already over there and know people that were doing it?
No, not really. We literally took a group of specialists with us, and we went to Bulgaria to, examine soil, taste the wines, talk to the people who knew the person who currently is working with us. She's everything in Bulgaria. She's the general manager of our enterprise that controls our quality of production and logistics, etc. She has over 30 years experience in wine. Obviously, we started working with her. She was sort of consulting in the beginning, and then eventually we realized that we need her because she's a tremendous human being, and she's passionate about exactly what we are passionate about. We're trying to elevate Bulgaria as a wine producing region, not just in the United States, but around the world, and that's part of our larger than life goal. Aside from obviously being a successful enterprise, we also want to make sure that the country that I came to love and became sort of my second home when I was 23, that finds its rightful place among other very prominent and important wine producing regions, and that Americans can 10 years from now say, oh yeah, of course I drink Bulgarian wine. Also, it's important to mention, Bulgaria has 2 enology schools, has a huge agricultural institute. So this is not just like, hey, we decided to do wine because everybody's doing wine. I mean, wine is part of their culture. It permeates every fiber of their being and of their identity. When a child is born, they put wine in a barrel, and a boy becomes 16, they crack open and drink it, or the daughter gets married, they commemorate that. Wine is in everything. It's part of religious rituals. Every Bulgarian has a little wine operation in his dacha or in his provincial home. Everybody makes wine, and it's an amazing product, and it's an amazing connection of the country and a people and a region, and we want others to experience what we feel, that warmth, that insane, almost driven attitude towards cultivating and continuing this tradition that has been for thousands of years in the area, and they are courageously against all odds, because they're a poor country, even though they're European member, they're still struggling against all odds. They're sticking with this and cultivating and continuing to continuing to grow and develop this unique product, agricultural product and cultural product.
So do you have wineries or vineyards that work with you?
Yes, we don't own facilities, and it was a conscious decision in the beginning because owning facilities is extremely cost extensive, and we considered putting majority of our money and resources into marketing, which is extremely important because you can imagine U.S. market is #1 wine market in the world, but it creates also the difficulties of it is extremely saturated. There are countless number of Chardonnays and Cabernets from various regions of various brands, various price categories. So it is obviously extremely competitive. So marketing, messaging, packaging is extremely important. And I thought, we will partner up with people who know actually how to make wine, and we will guide them because we have a better understanding what American palate is looking for or is comfortable with.
Sure.
And then we will focus on making sure that this wine finds its rightful place on the shelves.
So how has the wine changed since you took over importing and the control of how they're making it?
Well, not a lot of people know, but Bulgaria was second largest importer of bottled wine after France up until 1994. And obviously they produced huge quantities of wine for the Warsaw Pact countries, for the Soviet Union, Russia, etc. But their know-how goes back to 2,500 years when Thracian Empire was occupying that territory. So they're not a newcomer. Obviously, that's an ancient region that produces wine, arguably one of the first producers of wine. But in terms of type of wines or the qualities that local markets or other markets perceive as desirable are not something that is easy to sell in the United States. I think these are like granular nuances of the wine industry, but of course, let's say European wines generally are more acidic, drier, and tend to have, especially from the Eastern Europe or the older or ancient regions, they tend to be more tannic. So obviously, American palate has been, sort of slightly dumbed down, for the lack of a better word, by juicier, fruit-forward wines that are have sometimes higher residual sugars. So we obviously had to take that into account and make sure that they're not making wine for Bulgaria or for Russia or for Belgium or for England, but they're making wine for the United States. So that process requires working with wine growers, making sure the yields or the exposure to sun or the various even the height of the vines that of the Chardonnay, for example, whether they're close to the soil or they're higher up, it depends. It changes and modifies the sugar quantity and alcohol levels of the wine, acidity levels, minerality, etc. So we had to do a lot of legwork, making sure we educate them what we need to be produced, and they and of course for them to continue to produce quality wine with the integrity that they were producing, because we selected them for the reasons of them being fantastic wine producers that truly cared about the quality product, not just the profit, not just the volume, but truly making wine that is they can sleep well and be proud of someone drinking and enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because there are some wines out there that are just like you said, they're fruity, they're sugary, they're just mostly sugar and that. And I tasted some of your wine and it was very good.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
You can tell you put a lot into it, a lot of thought, and a lot of there's a lot of pride there too in your bottles.
Yes, and I appreciate that's very kind of you, because I think we, as a company, we strive, obviously. It's very hard. We don't always succeed, but we strive to be honest, transparent. We try to be ethical. We try to do the right thing. It is mighty hard to do the right thing often, simply because the constraints of the industry, the convoluted three-tier system in the United States, the laws, the alcohol laws, and each state is like a separate country with its own set of laws. So there are a lot of obstacles, but what we're trying to do is our team and our company, our philosophy is we want to be a responsible and socially conscious enterprise that also has its goal not just producing wine and making money, but making sure that our producers are happy and taken care of. Not always we succeed because it's hard, because the retailers are demanding certain things, and on the initial stages, and we are on a very initial stages still, we're developing Bulgarian wine for the US market. It's hard, and we both struggle, and we both like when I say we, I'm talking about our producers and we as brand owners in partnership. It is, we're still sort of sacrificing a lot of things for the greater good, but I'm hoping that by being ourselves, being true to ourselves, being able to produce a product that people can enjoy and we can comfortably tell them that it is not harmful, it is made with love, care, and with the highest technological processes available, and with the least intervention to the grape or to the quality and essence of the grape as possible, sort of guiding the grape through the process to the bottle. And also through that process, redefining the industry and redefining the general practices, how the wine is sold and how the price is constructed and how consumers view the wine and how their approach to wine as a product and aspect of sustainability and circularity, etc. So all this is extremely important to us, and we need to be able to sleep well. That's I think the primary driving force for all of us within the organization.
There was one thing that I remember you saying, and that was something about that the grapes press themselves. Can you tell me? Can you tell me what that is all about?
Well, that's actually important because what we do, that we don't use presses.
Okay.
Wine is made through a sort of, I don't know how much I want to go into winemaking process, but when the wine is picked, grapes are picked and then sorted out, and then they sent to maceration process, which basically they sit in a tank for a certain amount of time at a certain temperature.
Is that the oak or the steel tank?
No, this is like the first
The
sort
first.
of, yeah, it's in a steel reservoir, but it's a first stage. The wine, the process is constructed in a way that grapes are crushed gravitationally. So it's a gravitationally fed process and a system and a setup, technological setup that allows us. So what that does in like simple terms for people to understand, when you crush the grapes, sometimes you also crush the seeds, and seeds are responsible for a lot of tannins. Aside from the seeds, you can also puncture the membrane of the skin of the grape, and membrane also contains a lot of elements that create that harshness when you're drinking the wine. So the smoothness, the softness, and sort of like the ability to give the wine its pure essence without too much, for the lack of a better term, harshness to your tongue and to your palate, using gravitational process of pressing the grape is far more beneficial and far more far better for the ultimate product. And I think it's important to mention also that most of our wines, actually all of our wines, are hand-picked. We don't use machinery. Okay. They're hand-sorted. And in terms of quality product, I always say you may not like our wine because it doesn't fit your taste profile. We have different chemical composition of our taste buds, and our palates are different. I may like this wine or that wine. That doesn't mean it's a bad wine. It's just different. So when I say our wines are quality products, they are made with greatest amount of care and can compete in terms of value when it comes to the quality of the production with any wine from California around $20 or even higher. And our Cabernet Syrah can be considered in a $40 and $50 range, even though it's only sold for a fraction of that. But in terms of quality value, it's tremendous. But then whether you like it or not, that's just purely a preference of the palate. But we want to make sure that the consumer who purchases our wine at least can enjoy the quality that we are proud to be standing behind.
And I can say personally, from tasting your wines, that you can taste the love in every process that goes into making it. They're very good, very smooth, and you have, tell me, how many different kinds of wines do you import?
So we have three main brands that we produce in Bulgaria. It's our flagship wine, flagship brand, which is Bulgariana. There's a Cabernet, there's a Chardonnay, there's a Pinot Noir, there's a blend of Cabernet and Syrah, there's a Sauvignon Blanc. There's also a wine made from purely native varietal, Bulgarian native varietal called Kamza. And that's actually the name of the varietal. I think I covered pretty much all of it. We also had a wine that was Merlot Cabernet blend with 2 Bulgarian indigenous varietals in it, Rubin and Mavrud. But that the vintage is over. I don't think we're going to be continuing, although it was a fantastic wine. That was the first wine that got a pretty good rating from Robert Parker. It was 89 points. You know, granted, for a wine that was sold only at around $12, to get 89 points from Robert Parker, that was a big deal for us.
How did you get involved with Total Wine?
Well, I happened to leave literally 2 miles away from their headquarters in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And obviously, when we were starting, I just knocked on every door. And to be honest, people were laughing, literally. I mean, I had an importer of Italian wine whom I approached just for picking his brain and just understanding the intricacies of the industry. And he said, "Oh my God, you're importing what?" And he just couldn't stop laughing for like 10 minutes. And the funny thing about my personality, the more I hear no, the more determined I become. So obviously, the more I heard that I'm crazy and I need to check my head, and this is like the craziest thing I ever did. Why did I leave the financial world? I was making good money. I was happy. Well, I wasn't happy. And money is not everything. You have to also be true to yourself to a large extent. So we knocked on every door. And I was lucky to come across one of the executives of Total Wine, John Jordan, who, along with Cyrus Hazard, who at the time was starting to implement their Bordeaux Futures program. We met just unofficially, and they said, "Well, it's an interesting idea. It's kind of crazy. We don't have any Eastern European wines. It's going to be an uphill battle for you, but let's try it." And long story short, after a lot of talks and discussions about pricing, about the logistics, about testing the wine here and there in Maryland and in Virginia in the beginning, they took it on. And I have to hand it to them because it was, it's not an easy decision, because when you're running a business in this linear economy of ours and you are concerned about customer satisfaction, customer repeat purchases, and you don't want to bring a product that you're going to struggle with.
Right.
And it's a region nobody knows. 9 out of 10 Americans cannot locate it on the map, Bulgaria, and 10 out of 10 have no idea they make wines. So it took a lot of courage on their part to agree to do something, and I'm eternally grateful because I think Tron Brothers have done a tremendous job creating this phenomenal chain of stores with great staff and great variety and great wines available from pretty much every corner of the region. By the way, we're the only Bulgarian wine on their shelves, but I am they're instrumental, and I can't say enough about them in terms of how much they meant both for us as a company, for the brand, and for the region. So now we also work with Costco. We just started a project with Walmart. It's first time Walmart is selling Bulgarian wine, just kind of crazy, but it is amazing to feel like the region is slowly gaining prominence. These are baby steps, but we're going in the right direction.
That's great. So how has it impacted the people there in Bulgaria?
Well, I mean, obviously, we went from statistical zero on the U.S. market to we're going to come close to 500,000 bottles this year.
Wow.
So that's a big deal. We're the largest owner and importer of Bulgarian wine in the United States. It's not, I mean, I hate those terms like largest, best, first, but I hope others obviously pick up the baton, and there are others who are doing a lot of, there's a lot of efforts to bring and to kind of follow in our footsteps, because we were sort of the explorers, and now the path is open, and Bulgaria is a phenomenal wine producing region, fantastic capabilities. There's a lot of investments have been done in the last 20 years, and region can produce just absolutely amazing quality wines because the raw material sort of is there. The grapes are fantastic. They are in a wine belt sort of between the 38th and 44th parallel, where, as Decanter put it a few years ago, they did a piece on wine regions, and they said basically if you are within those parallels, geographically, you're in a good location. And Bulgaria can produce just amazing Bordeaux varietals like Chardonnay, Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah. Even Sauvignon Blanc is sort of more of a Western style versus New Zealand. Now we are seeing more and more Pinot Noir being planted, and Pinot Noir is doing phenomenally well on the northern parts of Bulgaria, close to the Danube River on the border of Romania.
And also, too, you produce more than just wine, right? You do liqueurs.
Yes. We produce one walnut liqueur, and it is technically, well, for all intents and purposes, it is a nocino. It's a famous Italian drink that a lot of Italian families have their own recipes, and each family prides itself for creating their own nocino. And that also was created in conjunction with Total Wine. It's only for Total Wine, actually. We don't sell it anywhere else. It is, I want to use the word natural because it is truly natural. It's only green walnuts, distill it, and we infuse it with Pinot Noir. It's a beautiful product, handmade, literally in 25-liter glass jars, aged, and the purest ingredients you can get. And the difficulty with green walnuts, you have a very short window of about 2 weeks to pick them because they disintegrate, and they're...
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they become, they just, they disintegrate. So you have to know how much you need to produce, how much you need to harvest, and then, because obviously you don't want to get stuck with a product that you can't sell, because it takes us about 2 years to make the bottle.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a long process. You can't be like, oh, I want more tomorrow. Well, I'm sorry, you have to wait, because there's a lifespan of the production and then aging, etc. But it's a beautiful product, and I think actually yesterday one of the staff members of Total Wine store said, I'm a 100% red-blooded Italian, and this is an amazing product. He said, I only drink amaretto, and I'm skeptical of anything that is made with Italian recipe, but not by Italians. But he said, I'm going to buy a bottle. I said, well, thank you. That's the highest praise we can get.
I tasted it, and it was so smooth, and it just warmed me as it went down. I felt like I wanted to curl up by a fire. It was really good.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I mean, I'm so glad you like it. Unfortunately, it's not cheap, but I think it's still affordable for someone, because you can keep that bottle for a very long time. You don't have to drink it at once. It's not like wine. After 2-3 days, it's going to be gone if you don't drink. But it's like it has the fortitude of a port. So from that standpoint, it could be like occasional beautiful drink as an aperitif, like before dinner, or a digestive afterwards with a cigar if you're smoking cigars, or just with a chocolate or with a vanilla ice cream, or if you want to go crazy and do it 50-50 with rye whiskey and a touch of lemon. It's an amazing thing.
I mean, this was wonderful. I mean, there's so many things I still would like to know and talk about, but we're going to say goodbye to our audience.
Thank you so much.
So, I'm Auntie Sharon, host of Mary's Eclectic Interests, and I want to say thank you for coming, and see you next time.